9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us on this Wednesday, June the 25th, 2025. Is that where we're at already? It's crazy to think about how fast the time goes. We're already 3 days-ish into where the days will start to get shorter until the shortest day of the year on December the 21st-ish area, right? Isn't that pretty crazy? But anyways, we're also glad that it's summer, and we'll enjoy the summer as it's here. We're streaming live at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app, and you can stream us. If you download the Radio Player Canada app, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're also at CKLU 96.7 FM and terrestrial radio. Streaming live, excuse me, also at Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel and the page. That way you won't miss the show when it comes on. It's supposed to tell you, supposed to prompt you when we're on. Doesn't always do that, but some people tell us it doesn't always prompt you to tell you the show is on, but it's supposed to. But comment, because we'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. We're also found on demand on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and our news aggregator, Sudbury.news, which you'll find all the latest local news, the latest, greatest. And it brings in Sudbury.com, Sudbury Star, also CTV Northern Ontario, CBC Northern Ontario, or CBC Sudbury. So there's all kinds of local news on our news aggregator. And basically, we're going to go through some of the news headlines for today, try and unpack it, make sense of the news locally, regionally, provincially, nationally, internationally. It's a complicated world and doesn't seem to be getting any less complicated. And so today we'll be talking about a little bit of that. Try to make sense of the country that we live in. What is Canada anyways? Where do we live? What makes up Canada politically? And a bit of a rant from the Blender News guys. Love those guys. And, talking about what people think Canada is compared to what it actually is. Bit of a wake-up call for some of us. So look forward to that towards the end of the show. We'll have local news headlines. Before that, all your comments and more. We'll start off with a little bit of weather, and then we'll be back right after that. It's going to be a great show, I promise. Are you money back? Okay, today, right now, it's 16 degrees. It's mainly sunny out there. It was quite hot the last 2 days. It won't be as hot today. Today, sunny, high of 26 with a humid X 28. So it's just coming down ever so slightly from what we've been experienced. Tonight, clear, increasing clouds. And then a 30% chance of showers overnight, low of 14. Thursday, mix of sun and cloud with a 60% chance of showers. Wind becoming southeast, 20 kilometers, gusting to 40 near noon. And then a high of 20. And I might have said it was Thursday today by accident at the beginning of the show. It's indeed Wednesday today. But hopefully I said the right day. Sometimes, I'll be reading something on the screen and then you know how you're just reading it and you'll say it. So anyways, so tomorrow's Thursday, with a 60% chance of showers, high of 20, and then a 60% chance of showers, high of 16 for Friday. 22 and cloudy for Saturday, 30% chance of showers, and 28 on Sunday. 60% chance of showers and a high of 26 on Monday. Mix of sun and cloud, high of 25 on Tuesday. Look at your satellite. For now, you got the clearing, and then some clouds will be rolling in a little bit later tonight with a chance of showers. That's your Sudbury weather. Brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, welcome back. And thanks for joining on so early, all y'all. We got Betty from Niagara joining us first on YouTube. Good morning to you. Northern Hillbilly as well on YouTube. Good morning. And Judy on Facebook, good morning to you. Monique, good morning, Sudbury. Cool shade smiley emoji. And Denise, good morning. Hazel, good morning prayer emoji, much needed, much appreciated. Same to you. And Marvin, morning all, made it today. Smiley text and a thumbs up emoji all the way from Alberta. And Sheila, good morning from Quebec, which we just came back from this last Saturday and Sunday. It was a great time up in northern Quebec, northwestern Quebec, Rouyn-Noranda. Great time with some great people. And Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for being on YouTube. Pat, good morning, y'all, on Facebook. Peace sign emoji. Liette, hello, everyone. Hello, hand clap, everyone from Collingwood. So a couple people on this morning. We had Tom Price and Bob Johnston on the show yesterday. Controversial to some, but definitely in the thick of things in Sudbury. Bob Johnston spends a lot of time with our vulnerable population downtown, trying to help them, and knows, from experience being on the ground what's happening with a lot of the people that we have struggling with addiction, homelessness, and other things, and is going to start his initiative of interviewing everybody and getting their story, which is pretty fascinating. And he should actually do a blog and just to capture all the stories of those people who are struggling in our city and, go unnoticed by most people. And I think maybe by doing that, it might bring to reality the very fact that we're all human, and all of those stories that they have will be able to be relatable, that maybe some of us can picture ourselves in the same position, just one event away in our lives, a tragic event away from possibly being in their shoes, or if our mental health fails us, or like we said, a tragic event, or just experimenting with an illicit drug of some kind and then becoming addicted. Who knows? Who knows? I just think if he's able to log these stories and make them public and have people read them, or maybe just even video them might be good too. If the candidates are open to that, to have a video blog and text blog for those that don't feel comfortable on camera. Excuse me, just to get people relating to people. And maybe it would take some of the stigmatization out, first of all, but it would also help people who have the ability to help our most vulnerable populations get to know, even if it's through social media or through technology, that they wouldn't have heard these stories and, basically, through that, just start to understand what they've gone through and where possibly have led to them, excuse me, and end up where they're at, right? Put ourselves in their shoes. I picked up something yesterday. I'm not sure what it was. Something in my throat. A bit of feels like it's going to be a cold or something, but anyways, got a bit of a tickle in my throat. So yeah, Northern Hillbilly is saying Tom and Bob are for the regular people. Excuse me. And Vin, good morning to you. My good friend lives in her car. The cost of living is much too high. That's Betty. All the crosses, row on row. That's our war on the NWO. Yeah, I don't know. I think part of the mass drug problem we have is not by accident. There are people out there there are factions out there that have a lot to gain by warring against us, by getting our population addicted to drugs. It's something that happened many, many years ago, where England basically did the same thing to the Chinese many, many years ago. And they have very good memories. And it looks like something similar just back at us now. So where does most of the fentanyl come from? And Marvin, we need a leadership for us, the real people. How can we achieve this for us? Would love to know. Prayer emoji, for sure. I think it starts with us personally. You have to be the person you would want to be leading you. Become that person yourself. And if many people did that, yes, for sure, Denise, gargle with salt water. Yeah, salt water right away. You give me the exact same advice as my wife. Good morning, Brian. Thanks for being with us. Good morning. On Facebook today. So let's dive into a couple local stories, and then we'll do our deep dive today. A couple great rants from the Blender folks. Very good insights from them. A couple of stories from Sudbury.com. First of all, police. Cecil Facer closure will further complicate prisoner transport. So, as you know, Cecil Facer in Sudbury is looking to close. There's no typo. Greater Sudbury Service Inspector Dan DePate said in sharing that local police did, in fact, travel 44,719 kilometers last year for prisoner transportation outside the city, with Cecil Facer Youth Center slated to close sometime in 2027. There's concern that even more kilometers will be notched, with the next closest facility for male youths being in Brampton. He said he highlighted the issue during the last week's police board meeting, during which he said when Cecil Facer closes, we will have no youth facilities, which means every youth custody has to go somewhere in the province. And I don't think we have answers to where they'll go yet. The Cesar Faisal Youth Center is a 12-bed facility for male youths in the city's south end and the city's only youth detention facility. So it's slated to close for 2027. Where do we bring those that need to go to a youth facility? Well, Brampton is the next closest one. And so they're looking like, are we going to be putting all of these kilometers on? And yes, Denise, I agree with your statement there for sure, 1,000,000%. You remember the storm we had just this last weekend, right, on Saturday? And it was supposed to, well, it was a warning that it could have hit Sudbury, a tornado warning. Well, it did hit the area of Mattawa, but there was a Sudbury couple that, are lucky to be alive from that storm. David Pitawanakwat and Wikwimikwang, unceded territory, decided he would spend Indigenous Peoples Day, June 21st, with his wife camping in Samuel de Champlain Provincial Park. They even stopped to help a turtle cross the road on their way, but Saturday night, a thunderstorm and possible touchdown of a tornado caused trees to fall on them, caused their trailer to smash into their truck, and left them fearing for their life, with little to protect them but hope. The storm and possible tornado that moved through the townships of Calvin and Bondfield near North Bay and the area surrounding Highway 630 hit hard on June 21st. A state of emergency was declared for both townships, and the Red Cross was brought in to evacuate those who were trapped by washouts and downed trees. There was no cell service, and evacuees were taken to Mattawa for shelter. So that's very scary, I know. Halfway Lake, just north of the city, I believe it was Halfway Lake, Provincial Park, a few years back, maybe 20 years ago. That's a few years back for me. And there was a microburst. And I had relatives on both sides of my family, unbeknownst to me, that they were there at the same time. Camping, just happened to be there camping on that day when there was the microburst, and just crazy. The stories, their trees are falling down behind them. They can see the trees like dominoes coming down as it was coming towards them. Luckily, no one was hurt. But yeah, when you're stuck in Mother Nature's fury like that, it's very traumatic, and I don't think we realize how, again, like a weather event like that, how powerful it is and what it can do. You can never underestimate the powers of nature. So sticking with Sudbury.com, this is something I noticed the other day, too. I was outside of Llewellyn, just parked there for a bit on my way to somewhere, and I looked at the school, and I was like, wow, schools still don't have air conditioning? You got to be kidding me. Because I remember back in the day in the school, and it was so hot, and they had the fans going in the classrooms, and it's hard to learn when you're so hot. That's all you can think about is how hot you are. And I thought, by now, you'd think for sure our schools would have air conditioning. The province says school boards are to blame for classrooms without AC. As Southern Ontario wilts under intense heat, the provincial government says it's given billions to schools towards boards to upgrade their classrooms, and that the lack of air conditioning is the board's responsibility. One education union and Canada's largest school board say that funding isn't enough, even their multi-million-dollar repair backlog. As you know, the Toronto District School Board and others across Ontario have plans in place, but make sure that, for example, their students are not out in the heat, in the high heat parts of the day, Health Minister Sylvia Jones said Monday. Boards are modifying and changing the locations of some classrooms during the heat wave, she said. Crazy. Like, shouldn't schools have air conditioning? I'm talking about elementary and high schools. I know that Post-secondary schools have air conditioning. But that is torturous for the students and the teachers to sit through, to go to work or to be in school without air conditioning in this day and age. I cannot believe that it's still the case. And missing persons, which is on the rise in Canada, which is the most ever. It's unprecedented, the amount of missing persons we have. It's an epidemic, actually. And it's not just missing Indigenous people, as you know, we do talk about it, and it is a thing, and we should be talking about it, but it's just everybody's going missing, or everyone has the potential of going missing. OPP still searching for a man last seen in Webwood on June the 15th. The search for a missing man in the Agnew Lake area near Webwood continues. The search for the man who has been identified as 50-year-old Greg, no last name, was released of Elliott Lake, began June 16th. The man had been last seen in Webwood on June 15 wearing a light-colored jacket, dark pants. Police and family members are concerned for Greg's safety and are asking anyone who may have information regarding this missing person investigation to contact the OPP immediately, OPP said in a news release at the time of his disappearance. Greg is described as 5'8", weighing about 155 pounds, short, graying brown hair, and green eyes. He wears reading glasses. If you have any information on Greg, contact the OPP. And yes, I can't believe the amount of missing people in recent years here in this country and in this area. Some city news, financial news. It's always great, right? You got more properties throughout Greater Sudbury area to become eligible for municipal financial incentives in a newly reconfigured plan targeting primary market housing. Speaking in favor of the Greater Sudbury Community Improvement Plan, Ward 4 Councillor Pauline Fortune said, "We are an amalgamated city, and this recognizes that." So Fortune spoke to local journalists following Monday's Finance and Administration Committee meeting of City Council, at which she voted in favor of the plan, which amalgamates the Strategic Core Areas Community Improvement Plan, the Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan, and the Brownfield Strategy and Community Improvement Plan. In addition to combining existing financial incentive programs, the Greater City of Sudbury Community Improvement Plan adds that core areas of several communities as nodes. We've heard that term before, as nodes in the plan's maps. Where have we heard that term before, nodes? It's kind of new, right? Do you remember talking about your city and using the term nodes before just recently at all? So as they amalgamate and as they get everything ready for what some call 15-minute cities, it's broken down into sections, and then there's nodes, and they even call the street names corridors. Just they change the names of this things we were so used to for so many years. But yeah, so nodes on the plan's maps, getting ready for the UN's 2030 plans of sustainability and reaching our net zero goals. So that's all part of that. We'll talk more on the show on that as we get more information and how we are doing it in Sudbury as well as other cities. But the city says, no, we're not doing that. But we're used to hearing things like that, right? So now, this is the thing. A lot of people talk about Canada and its corruption. It's been kind of going out of control, at least over the last 10 years. I'm sure it's been happening way more than that. But just a summary, of where we were for the last 10 years, just a recap of corruption. And this is only just the tip of the iceberg, right? Corruption in Canada. A Blender rant brought to you by Sudbury News on CKLU 96.7 FM. We'll be back right after this. Enjoy.
Canada is descending into third world levels of corruption, and the proof is piling up. GC Strategies, a two-man shell company with no IT credentials, was awarded 106 federal contracts worth nearly $100 million. In nearly half the cases, there was no evidence anything was even delivered. This isn't an outlier. The Green Slush Fund scandal exposed $330 million in taxpayer money funneled into Liberal-connected companies disguised as climate spending. When Conservatives brought forward a motion to recover $60 million paid to GC Strategies for the now infamous ArriveCan app, a project that should have cost just $80,000, the Liberals voted against it. Instead of trying to get back taxpayer money, they protected the people under criminal investigation. And yes, many of the same ministers involved in the scam got promotions under Mark Carney. Even worse, when a Conservative motion demanded the government table a budget before summer, the NDP joined the Liberals to block it. That means no plan, no accountability, no explanation for how they're spending your money. Meanwhile, the average Canadian family now pays 43% of their income in taxes. You're being squeezed dry, and they won't even give you the courtesy of showing you the receipt. Now comes Bill C-5, a Trojan horse that would allow the federal cabinet to override any law, including conflict of interest rules and financial oversight, if a project is declared in the national interest. So what does that mean? It means a government already exposed for funneling hundreds of millions into insiders now wants the legal authority to bypass the very laws meant to stop them. Canadians aren't just being robbed, they're being ruled by thieves.
So, again, right? Things have become very political over the last whatever. We had an election and the elbows up and the orange man bad tariffs and just some of the narratives that we've had. And it was just a big spectacle. These are real things that are going on in Canada. This is real. These are things we know. They're tangible, but they're not being, no one's being held accountable for these things. It's just being allowed to go on and on and on. And it makes you wonder, right? If these things are allowed to go on, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, like Bill C-5. It's turning into a communist country. We've known that. That's been the model as my chair of my program and recent university experience said that China is the model. And so I'm sure she knows a thing or two about being a tenured university professor that, you know, that is indeed the case. That's what the people, the smart people in Canada feel is the best thing for Canada, right? All of the intellects and academics and, you know, the Laurentian elites and people that make the decisions. You know, communism is probably the best thing for Canada, right? So that's where we're heading, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing right now, because we have some semblance of media and independent media, as we're making that transition to the government can just do whatever they want without any accountability whatsoever. Because if you pay off the media, which they have, billions of dollars goes to the mainstream media to make sure that they're not holding the government accountable, because the money they're getting to pay their paychecks is coming from the government. So why would they be held accountable? So that's one of the main steps you need to have in order to make a transition from, I guess, a democracy, a socialist democracy, let's say, into a communist order of things. We're just in transition right now. But yeah, are we really even a democracy, right? So you have to ask yourself that question. And the good folks at Blender also offer some insight into that. And I just can't say it any better myself. And that's why, you know, that's why we have them on the show, because they're already doing this. They put all the time and energy into it. And why would I then just put it in my own words or try and do the same thing, but not do it as well, right? So democracy in Canada. Are we a democracy? I don't know. Take it away.
Democracy in Canada has become nothing but a carefully crafted illusion. We are taught that voting equals freedom, that governments are accountable to the people, but in reality, We live under a system where the truth is hidden, elections are stage managed, and the average citizen has no idea what they are really voting for. Real democracy demands transparency and consequences. What we have is government-funded media that buries scandal under sanitized commentary, a political class that faces no real accountability, and a public too ignorant of the stakes. The 2021 and 2025 elections were not exercises in democratic renewal. They were tactical operations designed to shield a criminal and authoritarian regime from collapse. And what follows is not opinion, but a factual recounting of events. In 2019, 2 scientists working at Canada's top security biolab were escorted out by the RCMP. They were later found to have collaborated extensively with China's Wuhan Institute of Virology, including secretly shipping bioterrorism-grade viruses to the Chinese Communist Party's military. This connection, during the very period COVID-19 would emerge, posed explosive questions about Canada's role in a global pandemic. When Parliament demanded unredacted documents explaining the breach, the Liberal government defied 4 separate orders to produce them. Rather than comply, they launched an unprecedented lawsuit against the Speaker of the House to keep the documents secret. Facing imminent contempt proceedings, the Liberals called a snap election in August 2021, dissolving Parliament and burying the scandal before voters could fully understand that Canada was collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party on research that ultimately caused a global pandemic. 4 years later, history repeated itself. By late 2024, Trudeau's administration was engulfed in the Green Slush Fund scandal, where hundreds of millions in taxpayer dollars meant for climate initiatives were funneled into Liberal-linked firms and insiders. When questions mounted, the Liberals simply froze Parliament in October, dodging hearings and stonewalling investigations. After an extended Christmas break, Parliament reconvened, only for Trudeau, seeing his government's collapse looming, to prorogue it entirely. Rather than risk a no-confidence vote, the Liberals orchestrated a sham leadership race, barring any non-loyalists from running, and installed Mark Carney, a former banker with deep ties to China and the World Economic Forum, as Prime Minister. His coronation was decided by just 150,000 Liberal Party members, representing a mere 0.4% of the population. Yet somehow, Canadians handed this party a 4th consecutive term, largely because government-funded media ensured voters were never given a fair chance to make an informed decision. I'm not making a claim that there was vote tampering. The corruption was far more sophisticated. For 4 years, the Liberals evaded every mechanism of democratic accountability, suffocating investigations, silencing Parliament, and laundering their scandals through a compliant media class. At this point, it's hard to even summon outrage. One must almost admire the sheer audacity, the strategic brilliance of a regime that understands one brutal truth. Election outcomes are not determined by democratic ideals or competence. They are determined by the ruthless ability to manipulate the masses while seizing and wielding power. This is not democracy, it's real-life House of Cards, and Canadians are living under it, waiting for it all to fall.
And I believe the same thing. It was basically genius. It was genius, what they did. It was tactically, strategically genius that they got in again after they were totally down for the count. There was no way they were going to be elected. And that was genius what they did, right? I'm not sure if you know this or not, but this has been in the plans for many, many years, and Mark Carney was strategically part of Canada's demise as we're seeing it kind of crumble. Were you aware that Canada does not have any more gold reserves whatsoever, and who is behind the selling off of our gold? This, I remember hearing it on the CBC as if it was just another day's story. Oh, by the way, Canada has just sold off its last amount of gold, and they sold it to Great Britain. And so what's up with that? You can't have a country that doesn't have gold reserves, but maybe you weren't aware of this. But Mario from the north has the details.
Mark Carney's going to hate the fact that I made this video and did quite a bit of research. Watch this. Did you know that Mark Carney sold all of our gold reserves? And you know who he sold it to? England. And it gets better. I met someone who knows Mark Carney and actually advised him on the risk management of getting rid of our gold reserves. Mark Carney was literally explained that the US is holding record numbers and record amounts of gold, while other central banks are also doing the same. Mark Carney made the decision, and he said, we have no business holding any sort of gold, and our gold reserves are now zero. Watch this. And this isn't something that I'm just making up. This is an article in 2012. Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of Canada at that time. And as you can see, I believe this was a Maclean's article, and it said, the British are coming for our gold. In 2011, Canada sold to the UK, this is under his tenure, Canada sold to the UK a whopping 63% of our gold. For those who don't know, gold is a valuable asset. It is a form of diversification for every country, and that's why all central banks are holding it. As you can see, the chart during his tenure, it went to zero. He made that choice, I was told, specifically in 2012, and you see it completely go down to zero. While it was done after he was gone, that decision had already been made. Guess where Mark Carney went to next? As soon as he left of being the governor of the Bank of Canada, almost 1 month later, he held that position for nearly 7 years. This is where it gets interesting. Just remember that date, 2013 to 2020. During his tenure, that's what the gold reserves looked like for the Bank of England. They hadn't changed before his time, nor during his tenure. Mark Carney made a massive mistake, and he knows it. Otherwise, why would he not change the gold holdings or the gold reserves that the Bank of England has, but get rid of all of Canada's reserves and send the majority of them to the UK? Here's the kicker. I was told by an incredibly highly respected and well-known source that we had sold that gold for $1,200 an ounce. Today, gold is trading at $3,200 an ounce. This is in US dollars. Those gold reserves would have tripled in value. I won't go into the monetary economics of it, but there's a reason why central banks hold gold, period. He screwed Canada over. He sent it to the country where he was going to next, and he didn't sell a single ounce of gold during his tenure as the governor of the Bank of England. My friends, a PhD in economics doesn't give you a PhD in common sense. It just means that he specialized in one thing and one thing only during his thesis. Mark Carney's going to...
And there you go. So all of our gold. Now, not all Canadians are aware of that. I've been aware of that ever since it happened, and just was beside myself. I went to work and I told everyone, we just sold off all of our gold, and everyone at work was like, what? What? You just don't sell off all your gold as a country. Yeah, we have zero gold. And then a lot of people are like, yeah, well, we don't really need gold anymore. The economy's changed so much that you don't really need gold. And I'm like, what the heck? Where do people get this information, And so, yeah, very, very corrupt, and you're just following the trail of whatever, right? So you can see where our country is going. But here's a health center that refused to offer the medical assistance in dying from the government, and they shut them down because they wouldn't offer MAID to their clients, right? So not only are they destroying Canada from within, they're pushing these medical procedures when people are at the end of their rope, that they want to offer them this medical procedure to send them off and basically do away with them. And if people aren't complying, they're not going along with it, they're shutting these places down. So incredible. I can't believe. Anyways, just have a listen.
Wow.
So
Listen to
we did have a public-private partnership with the Fraser Health Authority.
Okay.
And we were told in our hospice. So I became the president of the Delta Hospice Society. And we were told, because we had a hospice that we operated, a facility that we actually built. We fundraised $8 million. We built it. We got a land lease for 35 years. We built those buildings on it. we were told that if we want money, we're going to have to start killing our patients. And we said, well, we're not killing our patients. We're palliative care. We don't do that.
Right. The whole point is to just ease the suffering as they go through this experience.
Live well.
Life, yeah.
Until your natural end, which
Right.
we can help you with.
Yeah.
Right? And so they said, well, you're not getting any more money. And we said, that's fine. We don't want your money and we don't need your money.
Wow, okay.
Right? We're sitting on this land with our buildings. So we had 25 years left on that land lease. So as soon as we started to resist and be defiant, not get into lockstep, they canceled that lease with 25 years left.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
They evicted us from our buildings, took our money away,
Jeez.
and basically took our facility from us, kicked us off the land, and expropriated those buildings, $8.5 million worth, to the government. So the government walked in, started to operate our hospice with us gone, and provide euthanasia there.
Jeez.
That is absolutely outrageous, and it does fit into this model we're seeing where they will shut down a bank account. They go against the lease that's been signed. What good is a lease if it doesn't, protect the property then you've invested that funding and money into knowing you're going to be there for a period of time, and all just because you're like, we're not going to offer death as one of the options in our hospice.
So you are now compelled. You see, and this kind of made, right, is conquest and then compel. That's the dance. That's the modus operandi that they're using, and that's going to be facilitated by the court system, by the judiciary.
Yeah.
Right? And all of our courts and our judges are appointed in Canada, appointed by the government.
Yeah. And so the government is controlling the whole thing. And where does the media come into this? Why is the media not pushing back? I know here we have pharmaceutical control of our media, so we'd be kind of screwed here, but you don't have that in Canada.
No, we have government control of our media. The government gives the media billions of dollars. So basically it's, I joke, kind of, not really. That is like Soviet-style Pravda.
Yeah.
That's our media.
So none of the television stations, they all get government funding?
They all get money. But particularly the CBC.
Yeah.
That's the state media outlet, and they get money, right? Of course, we have never been able to get our message onto the legacy media, into the mainstream media. It's all very pro-made.
Can you please elaborate
didn't get
on
that one
why
in
you
time.
advise
Almost,
against
though. So maybe next time I'll
cohabitation
get it on
before
time.
marriage?
So there you have it. We've just kind of talked about a few things going on in our government that show corruption, incompetence, definite just blatantly tanking the country by selling off all of its gold, forcing institutions to offer medical assistance in dying to its citizens. What does that all look like to you? I'll leave that up to you for just to make your own conclusions as to connecting some of the dots of the stories we've just covered on the end of the show. And it's all the time we got for the show today. So I appreciate you guys being on this Wednesday, hump day. June the 25th, 2025. We're 25/25 today, so it's kind of a neat date. So enjoy your Wednesday. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. We'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. And stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Have a safe and wonderful Wednesday, everyone. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.